So Army-Navy is one of the great United States sports traditions. I would argue not even sports, just one of the great traditions in the United States, the Army-Navy football game. I hope some of you out there listening have had the opportunity to go to that game. I hope some of you out there listening at some point will put it on your bucket list and be able to go. And I bet a huge percentage, regardless, watch this game or have watched this game a great deal. So the Army-Navy game this year is in Foxborough, which is the New England Patriots stadium outside of the Boston area. I saw this headline and I couldn't believe it. The state of Massachusetts, Buck, is taking the hotel rooms that fans of both Army and Navy have booked so that illegal immigrants in Massachusetts can be given the rooms instead. I couldn't believe that this was real. But your tax dollars in Massachusetts are now paying for illegal immigrants to be housed, and the hotels, which I'm sure don't want this to happen either, are kicking out members of the Army and Navy, of our armed forces, and those who support our armed forces. They have had this is from the Boston Herald, and according to the travel agent, hotel rooms across 3 hotels have been taken back after the state of Massachusetts decided to put migrants in those hotels. And they said that this was happening at the hotels and that they did not have the ability to stop this from happening, because the state of Massachusetts is essentially making it a reality. I mean, this is everything about this illegal immigrant crisis, this invasion, is ridiculous, but I thought this just really kind of cut through the noise, and I imagine a lot of people out there just see this story and can't believe it's real.
Yeah, well, this is what we're seeing in so many places across the country where resource decisions are being made, not just the expenditure of the resources for people who are illegals, but also that in those expenditures, whether it's what's going on with hospitals or hotels, you're also seeing that legal citizens of this country are not getting their due, right? That people who are here are being put in positions where they have to make compromises. I mean, I remember in New York at one point, they were even saying you should start to consider taking these illegal migrants into your home, you know, and like as if that's and I sit here and I say, who's doing that exactly? Like, when has that been the routine? You know, you've got refugee camps. People are showing all these videos of what it looks like in Midtown Manhattan right now, in New York City, right in the center of the city. And you have large numbers of people, men, women, and children, who are clearly dependent upon the resources given them, who are living in these hotels. And Kathy Hochul thinks that the answer to this is to try to get as many of them into jobs as possible. And I just sit here and say, the further into this we go without having their hearings heard or having their claims heard in a court, Clay, the less likely it is that they will ever be expelled from the country, right? So delay just makes it effectively inevitable that all these illegal migrants are going to end up staying in the country forever.
Here's a question for you, Buck. Pretend that you could choose how you spent your tax dollars, a la carte. You could go through and click like, I want my money going to this, I want my money going to that. What percentage of Americans do you think would vote to have their tax dollars go to support hotel rooms for illegal immigrants?
20,
5, 10, I think it's 5 or 10%.
5 or 10?
Because I think even left wingers, they like to say things in theory, but they don't actually want their money if they had the choice behind doing it. I mean, and it's, to me, that's a really revealing decision about the disconnect between how your professional politicians, it's your money that they're spending, yours, mine, everybody who pays federal tax dollars. Oh, by the way, only 50% of Americans even pay federal tax, which is crazy to think about. I'm leaving out Social Security. I'm talking about only roughly 50% of Americans actually pay federal tax. But the 50% that does, I think 5 or 10% would click. If you had a la carte and you went down and you could just click, hey, do I want my money to be going to this? Like, I think you can still, if I remember correctly, on your tax return, Buck, you can decide whether you want federal matching dollars to go for campaigns. Like, you can click that box or not. I think that still goes on. It's the only box I can remember where you get to choose how some of your money may be allocated. I think Democrats, Republicans, Independents, almost no one, if they had the choice to spend their dollars, especially not if they said, hey, you get this money back or it goes to illegal immigrant hotel rooms, I think almost no one would click. I wouldn't. I don't want my money being spent on illegal immigrant hotel rooms. There are lots of things I don't mind my money being spent on. That's not one of them. Why should I be paying to support people who are not American citizens with my hard-earned cash? I think the vast majority of Americans would agree that that's the wrong choice.
It's definitely the vast majority of Americans, but there is an open borders contingent of the Democrat Party, and really the leadership of the Democrat Party, I think you could rightly view as de facto open borders. I mean, they don't want people to be told that they can't stay. Every time someone talks about deportation, what do we get? The same moral blackmail about how, oh, it's so horrible and you're breaking up families, and, you know, they're not being put in prison for 20 years. They're being sent back to the country that is their home country that they have citizenship with. Like, this is talked about as though it's an unthinkable thing, even though it goes on year in and year out. It's just a question what the numbers are. Biden has dropped the numbers down so much that it is almost irrelevant who's being, it's irrelevant how many people are being deported because it's a drop in the bucket. And the inflow, as we've discussed, I think I've been saying 6 million. Some people are saying now that based on the calculations, when you add gotaways and you add it all together, it's already getting near like 7 million and change. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, so everyone understands. We have a $33 trillion debt and we have 7 million illegals coming into the country in 3 years.
That's why people are so angry. And what I'm hitting on, Buck, is I think a lot of these people who claim that they want it are actually hypocrites. And that if they had, first of all, a lot of the people who claim that they want the money to be spent aren't actually paying tax dollars, right? So it's very easy to say, oh yeah, of course we should be spending it. It's not your money. If you had to actually pay for it and you had a choice, hey, you can get back $2,000 or your $2,000 can go to paying for illegal immigrant hotels. I think 5% to 10% of Americans who pay taxes would actually vote to give money to pay for illegal immigrants in hotels. But the fact that they're evicting people who want to go to Army Navy because they're taking over their hotel rooms, I mean, we're past the point of absurdity. You can't even you can't even satirize some of these stories that are now beginning to occur with these illegal immigrants. And it reminds me, Buck, of the same people who say, oh, go get your COVID shot. Tiny minorities of those people are actually going to go get the most recent COVID shot. They're going to lecture people on social media. They're not getting it for their kids or for themselves anymore. I don't think so.